Thank you so much for waiting this minutes here. My name is Letícia da Rosa, and welcome to the Munich International Film Festival. Today we are gathered here with the support of the Foundation Rosa Luxemburg that is bringing this panel on female filmmakers, female voices in the new Latin American cinema. So today we have here Ana Cristina Barragan with the film The Ivy from an Ecuadorian production. Then we have Cecilia Kang from Argentina with the film Elder Son. We have Valentina Maurel from Costa Rica with the film Forever Your Maternal Animal. And last but not the least, Iglesias SK with the film The Swimmers, also from Argentina, as Cecilia. So thank you so much for being here today. And these films, they all struck me. They are very different in form, tone, and texture, but they all have like similarities, not just that they were made by both filmmakers from different countries in Latin America, also women filmmakers. That doesn't mean they're telling stories that are just restrict to men. They are telling universal stories that appeal to all of us. So these films, they have like some common things, like how people live inside crisis, bodies that carry trauma, memory and politics, family as both origin and fracture, and cinema, and especially what we are gathered here today is to talk how cinema is made under fragile conditions, economic and institutional conditions, and sometimes under political dismantling, as in the case of Argentina. So today is the hottest day of the year, and Munich seems to want to collaborate with this panel because Saul's film, The Swimmer, starts in a very hot endless summer day. So I want to start with Saul, with your film. So Saul, in your film, catastrophe isn't staged as hysteria, but rather as routine, apathy, and almost like a nihilistic drift towards whatever pleasure remains. And I wanted to ask you in a few regarding like references, and if your film is based in a tradition where the strange or catastrophe enters everyday life without announcement.
Yes, well, thank you first for inviting me and us to this talk. I think that being Latin American has something of knowing the chaos and having it like inside your system because you are a third world, so you manage to make things work even though the world is a heavy place. So I think that the movie talks about like catastrophe, like something natural, like something of everyday, because as the new generations start to take all these crises, perdón, hay algo de que ya no podemos ver un futuro.
Something that we can't see a future anymore.
Entonces, dejamos de poder proyectar un sueño y eso hace que...
So we can't project a dream anymore, and this makes that...
Que cuando uno piensa en la posibilidad de un apocalipsis...
That if somebody thinks in the possibility of an apocalypse...
no suena como algo de lo que correríamos, sino que suena como algo que cargaríamos encima de nuestros hombros.
It's not something we would go for, but something that we are carrying on our shoulders.
That's my answer.
Thank you so much. So on that apocalypse note, I was reading some interviews of you on your film, and your film was produced like right after Milei, the Argentinian president, like started its term, and that also started with a big politics of austerity, not only economics, but in other parts of the economic, but especially in the audiovisual. And with the dismantling of the National Institute of Cinema, the INCA, and that's a question actually for you and Cecilia. Did that affect your films in the sense of budget cuts while you were producing your films? You have 2 different films, and you're treated like this kind of a zeitgeist of a generation now, and especially under Milei, this kind of hopelessness. I imagine that's hard to foresee a future under those conditions, and being an audiovisual worker, filmmaker, can be very desperate. And your film, Elder Son, has a hybrid form. Is your first feature film. By the way, Elder Son also won Best Emerging Director. Cecilia won Best Emerging Director in the Locarno Film Festival last year. So your films are bold and daring and are winning prizes in festivals and traveling. So how does, since Milei entered, or this politic of dismantling institution, or the far right, affect your films?
Well, in my case, in our case, it affected it directly, of course. I always say this, Elder Son, Hijo Mayor is almost like a miracle. Because it's a film that it took us a long time to reach for the funds, because we had the Inca fund, but of course it wasn't enough, so we had to reach for co-productions because of the type of film that Elder Son was. But then with the change of government, it was like, okay, maybe this work that we've been doing for, 5 years can just disappear from one day to another. I do remember very clearly doing the submission of a fund that we didn't get in the end, but I did it the very same day that he got into he won, and I remember this feeling of hopelessness and feeling how everything was gonna be lost, and that was really a very difficult, thing to step up to. So yeah, we always say that Hijo Mayor was like a leap of faith. It was like a jumping to an unknown place, because basically we started shooting. So we won the Inca fund before, like, of the previous government. So we were one of the last 3-5 films that were made that year. But we didn't have the fund, the money, actually, because of the. So it was like, but at the same time the funding was like expiring. So it was like we just do it, and we hope for the best, or we basically cancel the whole production. So actually, I'm really thankful for my producer, who was like really brave, no? Because it was really a jump into a place that it was completely unknown, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We still don't know, actually. We haven't got the money from Inca yet. It's true. So this is a film that it still has a lot of depth, but I mean, fortunately, later So making the film was also like we not only me. I'm so grateful for all the people, all my friends, all the crew, and the artistic crew that was working on the film. But also, like, I think that everybody that we were working on the film, we were like feeling that, because all the crew, like shooting a film, this type of film, like a small independent like film, it felt really like a privilege in a way, but at the same time also it was our way of like standing and fighting this very obscure time that was coming. So I think that in a way we were all really super committed, and we gave it all, and we put all our bodies and love and faith on it. And I think you can tell that by watching the film. I really truly believe that, and I'm really thankful. So yeah, it's a way that we have to I mean, I'm not a militant, I just do films, so that's the way that we have to fight against these movements, no? These very far-right movements that are trying to destroy the things that we love. So yeah, it was quite complex.
Well, we never considered like the institutions as something that could make possible our movie, because we knew that we were and we still are, the whole crew, really young people, and it was like a really little movie that we said, hey, let's, if we try to take this to an institution, the way things work nowadays, even if the institutions, which they don't look at young people at all, like at all, it wouldn't be possible to be made, even within like now, like in that year, in that moment, and it was the only moment we could think about making it, because when you need it, it's like urgent, and we wanted to make it like with the things that we had, because we didn't trust like the institution to be like looking at us. So we started making it, and when we were shooting, Javier Milei assumed as president, and we remember like turning on the TV while we were shooting and seeing people being repressed by the police in the Congress, and it was terrible. And while we watched that, we were like, okay, we are making something that it's big and that it's going to be something where we are alone with our movie. And the prices went up a lot, so if we shot we couldn't shoot the film like later that year, because we couldn't do it with the same money. And I think that making movies, even like in a guerrilla way, the way we did it, it's very important for us young generations, because it's important to say, like, if institutions don't want to give us a voice, we have to give that voice to ourselves with the things we have, and that's our critique also. Like, the way we produce is a way of criticizing the system on the industry and the way the industry works, and it's our way to also manifest ourselves against like the super right movements that try to dismantle culture and arts and cinema. And I think that we we were focused on that and not romanticizing this of making guerrilla and not having any money. I'm not talking about romanticizing that at all. But yes, I think that if you want to make something, you have to make it urgently happen, because as artists and directors, we have like a mission in society, which is to talk about the problems that we have as a society and to show it to people, to try to bring it to the table. And yeah, I think this is the only way that can be done nowadays.
Thank you. Also, you were in the work in progress in Guadalajara, no? Is there? I was reading where you met your producer. So there is this. What I want to talk to all of you is that. Curious, all the films here are co-productions with 2 or more countries, and 3 of you, the Ivy, Forever Your Maternal Animal, and your film, The Swimmers, they were co-productions with Mexico, so also a big player in Latin America. So I was interested to you, Valentina, that you are a Costa Rican filmmaker and your stories are Costa Rican. That's your imaginative territory where you want to tell stories, even though nowadays you're not based in Costa Rica anymore. And it caught my attention that your film, which is about this family returning and also belonging, returning back home, was shot in Costa Rica, and it's not a Costa Rica production. So maybe could you tell a bit of this making of the film, and also the aesthetic aspects for you, like the decision to shoot there, and being a European Mexican production. Could you tell a little bit about that?
Yes, it's working. Well, unfortunately, it's not a Costa Rican co-production, but I wanted it to be, of course. We have a national fund that it's a bit fragile, and it's handled administratively in a very rigorous way. And they didn't allow us to apply to the fund for reasons that are a bit, for me, mysterious, because I think in Costa Rica we're still considering filmmakers as eccentric artists asking for a favor, you know. There is not a vision of wanting to build an industry. So when you come, you know, there is no industry, so we are not administrators. Everybody has its own production company, and we're kind of artists, so we're not the best administrators, is true, but I've managed with my films, being my own producer there, to handle money coming from abroad, to having Ibermedia funding, except what I mean, there is a very strange way of being very rigid in Costa Rica, which I think is enabling many filmmakers to get the fund. So it's a bit weird, because we're booming, and still many of us can't really benefit from the fund. This on one hand. And in the other hand, for me, it's strange, but it's easier to get funding in Belgium or in France, because I am based in Belgium. But this has an influence on the way I'm on my freedom as a filmmaker while I'm shooting in Costa Rica, because if I only have money from Europe, I have to bring all the technicians from Europe, you know. So I decided that I wanted to make a co-production with Mexico because of this, because I wanted the film to be as Latin American as it could. But it was not easy also to bring Mexico on board, because they have their own, there is an industry there is many people trying to get the national fund, and we managed somehow to make this co-production. But I think, for me, it's a real issue on the way you think your own projects, and it hasn't really an editorial influence on how you perceive your projects if you cannot be protected by a national fund, you know, if your film is not more local. And I am half French also, so I wanted to talk about also what it is to be a Latin American having a strong relationship with Europe, and how this also influences the way you see the place where you come from, you know, like when you've been in Europe, sometimes you think of the place you come from as being the periferia, from Europe being the center of the world. I mean, it's something that you have to fight, but it's something that happens a little bit inconscientemente. I don't know how you say it in English. So when you are fabricating a film about this, and you don't even get the national fund in your own country, it becomes like a very difficult thing to fight against, you know. So yeah, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I am trying now to think how I can finance my films, thinking more to integrate other Latin American countries. So I am not so depending on European funding. Also, when you write a script and you want the script to be accepted by a European committee, of course you have to think the script in a particular way so they are interested in the script. And in the end, even if you think, well, this is only to get the funding in Europe, it will end up in the film somehow. I don't know if I'm I'm being clear, but when you have to justify your stories somehow, you end up as a filmmaker making films that are explaining themselves a bit. There's a foreign gaze inside your scripts. So that's why I think it's good that we co-produce between each other more. Let's talk about it later.
So you mentioned like a fragile industry like in Costa Rica, how hard it is for you, even as a Costa Rican, to get funds. I'll go to you, Ana, based in Ecuador, making your films in Ecuador. Ecuador is also a very small film industry. And your film, The Ivy, was the second Ecuadorian film to really travels and be in the competition. To be in festivals, sorry, and be in a competition of A-list film festivals. Your premiere was in Venice, where you won the Best Screenplay Award for your film, and you participate during the making of this film to many labs and work in progress in festival in labs like BR Lab in Brazil, like a script writing lab for the ones who doesn't know, or the film residency in San Sebastian Film Festival. And I was wondering how that shaped this experience to develop the project abroad or in Europe or in Brazil. Now you developed also a part of your script there. How does that shape your story, your film, and how do you place this film in Ecuadorian cinema right now? What conditions are there for you, Ecuadorian filmmakers?
Yes, well, when I started making films, there was kind of a silence in Quito. I live in Quito, in Ecuador, and we didn't have many access to other films or many cinemas. So it was very important to go outside, to have labs in different countries or to present the film, because you could be alimentarte, how to say, feed yourself, from ideas. Now it's different, but every time I do a film, it's so important for me to travel, for example, to Brazil Lab or to go to Icusmira in San Sebastián. I was there several weeks working and having these other points of view. In Ecuador, we have a very strong community of filmmakers. We have fought a lot for the rights of cinema in Ecuador and trying to make the funding bigger, but the fund is very small. We have the top amount of the fund is $100,000 for production. So if your film is around, for example, 1 million, we have to co-produce with a lot of countries as well. For example, The Ivy was co-produced with Mexico, France, Catalonia. to make it and some private investment. So it was too long. Like we take like 7 years, I don't know, like raising the money. And now the new film, I take Valentina's word because we are doing a co-production. We already have funding from Brazil and from Chile. So for now, it's an Ecuadorian, Brazilian, Chilean film, and we are applying to Mexico as well. And I think it's interesting, like this kind of alliances, because it's a very, very Latin American film. And we're also applying for a European fund. And it's tough to do films in Ecuador. I mean, I live in Ecuador, I do films there, but the next film I am doing is the last maybe of this time I will do in Ecuador. I will shoot in the summer. But then I am preparing a film to be shot in Mexico because I am a bit tired of fighting so much and economic problems, let's say. And we have also a president that is like fan of Milei, very from the right. And he wants to be Milei. And yeah, so it's a pity because now I will shoot a film in Mexico. I mean, I love Mexico, I have a strong relation there, but it's tough to say, okay, maybe I cannot continue doing films in Ecuador because it's so hard.
That situation also reminds me of Brazil that we had with Bolsonaro some years ago, and it's just like that. The political situation can shift, and the whole sectors, especially the culture, is one of the first to have great budget cuts and being dismantled. And also in that the Bolsonaro years, we had like so little projects being approved, and it happens the same as with your film, Cecilia. Many people had their approvals like shortly before Bolsonaro won, and then won the elections, and then the money wasn't being paid for a year. So people were so much less films were produced during these years, which is like a total dismantle of an audiovisual politic that was built like in 15, 16 years, and now we're back on track. But let's see, that's so fragile, like the economic structures in Latin America, that far right is just a little kick on the door, and it can come at any moment. And that can happen here in Europe too. So, and yeah, and I want to ask it to you, Cecilia, since it's your first feature, and you come from the documentary world, and you decided to do a hybrid film. What do you think is the space now in Argentina to first features, especially a film that documentaries involve? Documentaries takes long to produce, and not everybody will be directly on board, like as sometimes in fiction is a bit easier. What do you think is the landscape right now for first features and both films, and especially your film about identity, your identity as Korean, Argentinian? Yeah, what do you think is the space there now, especially for people doing films like yours, and that to bring into light these communities and these stories that I didn't know much about Korean, Argentinian community there, and your film really struck me. Yeah, I have a baby that's Brazilian Greek and born in Germany, and I always think how is gonna be her belonging and what is her home, what will be home for her. And your film was so sensitive and beautiful told, and with those two languages. So, yeah, how do you think is the landscape now for first features like yours?
Well, thank you for your beautiful words. Well, the landscape now is is complex, I guess. It's difficult. It's not easy. I always joke and say, like, I don't know if I would recommend people to make films right now. It's like, it's not the best thing. But at the same time, it's inevitable, no? We have so many stories to tell. We have so many visions and realities that we want to, as Sol said, no, we have this, in a way, this responsibility to show and to share, and that's the job that we have to do. So I have many colleagues and even students in Buenos Aires, and the good thing is that even though like the public politics are like completely destroyed, Inca is completely destroyed, people still, we're still making films. However, no, like the younger generations like developing projects, and mostly, I think during this time of crisis is even more urgent. Like this hybrid type of projects, I think that they are way more than fictions in a way. But because I think that's a very beautiful consequence of the crisis that we're living, because the only way of narrate our realities is going through those limits, and going through those how to tell the world that we are living now. So I think hybrid forms in a way helps us to reconstruct and to talk about in ways that are also more easy to get through, no? Making a fiction is always so complicated. You need the money, you need the structure, you need all the blah, blah, blah stuff. Nowadays, anyone with a phone, with whatever thing we have, we can make images. And that's the powerful thing, no? I think, and that's the encouraging thing also, no? Of course, it's not like, oh wow, so pretty and romantic as Sol said, but at least in Argentina, we still have, me included, the only way of fighting what is happening is like just to keep doing, however we can, and with the limitations we have. Like limitations for me are like a very beautiful way of forcing me to be creative in a way, no? If I don't have the money, well, I will have the time, and then I will have the ideas, no? So, and I think that's happening, and yeah, and that's happening with the forms also, which is, I think, is beautiful. It's not anything that we invented, but I think. Walking through those paths are like, a more fun way to deal with the reality we are having, and to show and to open like a conversation. I think that's important. There is always this idea of like, no, people, they don't watch this type of films. For me, that's not true. I mean, people don't get to know about these films. But if they know, if you bring a place where you can show a film like that and have it with people, there will be always a conversation. Like it's happening right now with Hijo Mayor. We are like, we did the commercial release in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and we've been, of course, in more like, not the commercial cinemas, but in like more specific art films like venues, and we've been defending the film for 4 months already. So there is people who are interested and engages and go through that. So yeah, it's like that.
I was really wondering, like, now I wanted to shift a bit from the political aspects, more like aesthetic and your aesthetic decisions of you. I will go to you again, and then we'll pass the ball. Why did you choose this hybrid form? What do you think that fiction could tell in the story that is so personal and about identity, belonging, that documentary could, and what documentary could tell in the story that fiction could? How this decision come?
I guess I just wanted to make a tale. The reason why I chose fiction was I had these memories from my dad, like that I've been listening from since I have my own memory, you know? Like every time my dad was I don't know, drunk or with his friends, he will always talk about his adventures when he came to Latin America, all the struggles, so to hear those stories as a kid and imagining them, it was like it was like my own film. I would do and reproduce and repeat all these images like in a very obsessive way. So I think the reason why I decided to say, okay, let's do it as a fiction, it was that I was just obsessed with those images, those stories, and I wanted to tell this tale. And at the same time, of course, during the development, I realized that it is a super personal story. It was a story of my family. Who cares, the story of my own family? But at the same time, I was understanding that the story of my own family is the story of so many families around the world. So I guess the ambition was to get that, like to tell a tale that could resonate with many other people, no? And then the reason why I also have this documentary part is very, I guess it's very personal, because it just started with an interview that I did to my dad when I started to, in 20, I think it was 2018, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start this project. And so the first thing, well, I'm gonna interview my dad to have like a investigation to write, blah, blah, blah. And then of course, I had that material, and it was like, from the first draft of the script, I had this urge of leaving a fragment of that interview. And that interview later turned out in these new scenes that we shot, which was also all linked in a way, because actually the documentary part of the film was the first thing that we shot, like after all the struggles, all the years, like the funding, all the problems, blah blah blah, not knowing that we were gonna be able to shoot the film or not, because we were like in this type of crisis. I was very depressed, very, very completely depressed, because I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna throw out 8 years of my life, blah, blah, blah. And then my producer and my DP, my DOP, my producer was a little bit desperate, because he was like, okay, we need to, in a way, for not to lose the Inca fund, we need to like present the beginning of the shooting. So my producer was like, for practical things, like let's do whatever, like bring me that archive, and we can, I don't know, invent something. And then my DOP was like, why don't we reshoot it? Why don't we interview your dad again? Like, why don't we show them what we can do, only the two of us? Like, so it was yeah, in a personal way, it was for me like a slap on the face, like my friend telling me, "Come on, Ceci, it's not lost. We can do it." So, thanks to that, thanks to my very dear friend, an amazing DOP, that happened, that appeared, and then is the beautiful thing about working with the real, no? When you encounter the real, like I had this script that I've been working for so many years, and then with that script, I thought of like, okay, maybe I want to do the interview of my dad, but then what if I interview my mom? Because I felt that, also because of like production problems, actually, the script was about, the script had a part that was about the mother, but then because of financial problems, I had to take it out. So I felt, okay, this is a way of like, this is my revenge. I'm gonna interview my mom, and then all the final scene, and in a way, doing all of that was for me like crucial to then, and like to make amends with my script, no? To make amends with my story, with my personal relationship with the story, and then to atar los cabos, to click all the points, and yeah, and see where the film was going to go. So yeah, it was great, and that's the beauty of working with the real, no? That it always surprises you, always amazes you. You always end up learning so much more. So that's the yeah. And also, it just shows that it's just a Korean family lost in Argentina. Like, my family could be any other family. So I think also that's at least the thing for me that is important, not to show that this is just a portion of a life, no? And many other families would be the same, no? So yeah.
I want to, from what you said, trace a parallel with your film Forever Your Maternal Animal, Valentina, that you have like this, you build this affection, and also through different relationships. There is in both of your films this thing, food is not like central, but there is in both of the film, and that's one thing that brings a warmth to your heart, or brings you back to a place where we call home. They both treat families, but your film is very different. Treat from this migration, returning home, and what is home? Like, is it? It's kind of like it's not your home anymore, and you're not the same person. So you have this strange and distant relationship. And you mentioned that your territory, no? Your imaginative place is Costa Rica, where you grow up. So I was wondering, what change in the distance, what can you look through this place and to this character, this girl, like going abroad and then returning to a family structure that is not fixed. The roles of mother, daughters, they shift and they are negotiated the whole time. So what is distance from now? Like, what can you see from distance living abroad, like brought to your film? And yeah, how that change your story? How do you tell stories?
How did that change my story? It's hard to imagine how the story would have been if I had never left Costa Rica. But I think I did, I mean, by living in Costa Rica, I suddenly was able to see my family, to see the place from where I come from, and to see Costa Rica from a distance. Because when you're inside, sometimes you cannot see anything. And when I started studying in Belgium, and I was first in France and then I went to Belgium, I was destined to make films in French. That's what I thought I would do. My first short was in French, and suddenly I felt the need to go back there, trying to grasp something that I thought suddenly was very blurry, that I didn't really understand the place I came from. Costa Rica is a particular country because it's like a country that has a different story than other Latin American countries. It's like it's a very blurry country with fortunately no dictatorship, no civil war, no army, but also very influenced by the United States. So I think maybe the desire to go back and make films there was also to have Costa Rican films, because we didn't really have any. And by making films to be able to imagine our country somehow. And of course, I did that at the same time I was trying to make this with my family. Because I think just because it was more honest for me to talk about the things I know, which are growing up in the Bohemian middle class in a Central American country, which in general has not really been seen so much in films, I think, because when you think of Central America, you only think of of misery, of drugs, of things that have been portrayed in films, and I know why, because they're very present and it's urgent to portray them. But when you have grew up in a very protected middle class, it feels a bit off to try to tell stories that you know nothing of. So I think that's what I try to do with my films. It's to try to make this very specific place in the world, which is a Bohemian middle class in San Jose, Costa Rica, exist, and also myself try to understand what it means, what it is, because as you said in this film, it's very blurry, the place, who's taking care of who in a family, the mother that doesn't want to be a mother anymore. I think it's very specific of also a family of artists in a small country where you have my parents, because it's not fully autobiographical, the film, but of course a little bit. And I come from, my parents were artists that fought an image of authority, a paternal authority, and I think by doing this, they made everything very blurry. And I think it's okay, you know, but I wanted to talk about when in an artist family you want everybody to be free. What do you do when at some point one of the children is maybe way too free or way too different or what? But also I wanted to talk about a girl, a Latin American girl that has been in Europe, and she comes back to Costa Rica and she finds everything very dysfunctional, and she wants to make it work. Like if she imagines suddenly that there is something off in her own country because yes, people are not structured like in Europe. They don't want to have necessarily a career. They believe in God, and as they believe in ghosts, as they believe in that the negotiation with reality is different. So, yes, I think I always see the family structure like a little theatrical scene of what's going on in a full society, you know. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but yes, that's why.
Thank you. I want to go to Ana. Your film doesn't talk exactly about this movement of coming and going and reflecting on identity, but there is like the characters seem like displaced from themselves. Kind of like that's this movement happens like within the two protagonists, that 30-year-old woman who looks and feel like a teenager, and that teenager boy from foster home, and their relationship. So they seem like they are looking for a place where they could call home, because they don't feel really home in their bodies, in their place in society. They are strangers, not just to one another, but to themselves. So how does estrangement begin to you? Are you drawn to tell stories about estrangement from, to oneself? How does that influence the story or the films you make?
Yes, mainly when I start writing a film, I start from the body. The script comes from the body feeling, not from a whole story that I imagine from beginning to end, but more like from a strange feeling. And in the case of Ivy, it was about becoming 30 and how the wounds of the childhood and teenager age come to this adulthood, like in a quiet lake, like kind of anxiety. And I wanted, in my two previous films, I did very personal films, like almost autobiographical in a way. And I wanted to work about family, but with two strangers that kind of decide to be family because of their broken self. And I wanted to talk about abuse and how a 30-year-old girl that had an abuse as a girl, very young, like get stuck in this age, and her body was like, her territory was like impacted, like, and it never completely developed. And she's kind of selfish as well, because she's kind of immature in a way, and she couldn't continue being an athlete. And I was also inspired in a case in Ecuador where there was an abusive teacher in gymnastics, so several girls were affected by this, and how this affects also their career as gymnasts, let's say. And also I wanted to talk about abandonment. That is a topic I am really interested in, but in this case with Julio, that is a boy that is 17 years old, and he's almost leaving his foster home. And what happens with these boys and girls that are 17, 18 years old, and they have to go to the outside world out of the orphanage, and they don't have anything outside. So, and I investigate a lot, and I visit a lot a specific place in Ecuador called San Vicente de Paul. And I wanted this boy to have these different feelings, like kind of anger, but also he's very tender with the little boys in the orphanage. And how these two characters, because Azucena, the 30-year-old woman, also take care of her grandfather, and how these kind of abandoned characters also take care of others, and they learn about motherhood with others. And when they find each other, they also try to take care of each other, but they are also broken kids and they need to play, and that's why the film also has all these playhood during the whole story.
Yeah, there's something that's throughout your films, and in your last film, Piel Pulpo, also displaying very sensual factor theme. It's there very present. Well, I had like so many things that I would like to talk to you. We have like still some minutes. We can go a bit after 4. I would like to open to the public for questions, because we have here 4 filmmakers with 4 amazing different films, and please take your chance to ask them questions now. So anybody would like to ask something to the filmmakers?
Hello, my name is Maria Jose, and I'm from Ecuador, and I live here in Munich. My voice is a bit broken because I screamed so much for the Germany-Ecuador game. I have one question for Ana Cristina and also one question for Sol. I start with the question for you. The struggles that you face in Ecuador trying to do films are mainly financial struggles or also another kind of struggles? And for Sol, I was curious because you mentioned that you needed to adapt the script in order to get European funds. So I was curious what kind of things need to be like adapted in order to convince the Europeans to give you money.
Well, in Ecuador, yes, I think that one of them is the budget and the funding, but also the support. Because, for example, when we were at Venice, it was the second Ecuadorian film that was in a competition in Venice. And we didn't have, like, for example, in Chile, they have Cinema Chile that supports the film through the whole process, through the distribution. And we don't have that. And for example, in Colombia as well, like, is near to us, but they have this idea of, okay, we are going to do a film that is gonna be in Cannes or is gonna be pre-selected for, I don't know, Oscar foreign category, and they have like this vision of how cinema is important as a mirror of a country and to represent a country, so they like follow films. But in Ecuador, we don't have that as well. Like, I don't think we have, institutionally, we don't have this vision, okay, of what the importance of film. So we are missing that as well. What we do have is like this kind of very strong group of filmmakers that we fight for rights, and there is a lot of very talented people. Because I have worked with several, let's say, sound designers in the co-productions I have done in other countries, and I say, no, but my friend in Ecuador is like the best, but he's like hiding there. Like, we have a lot of talent as well. And just a comment about the match, because we just have this very important match between Ecuador and Germany, and we won. And it was like extremely, extremely amazing for Ecuador. The country is like crazy because we were almost out of the World Cup, almost. And we had to win Germany, imagine. So it was a very big challenge. So I screamed a lot as well.
And your question, I think it was for her, because I didn't do co-production with Europe.
You didn't cheat for... No, I mean, let's not caricaturicemos, ¿cómo se dice? Let's, maybe I'm a little bit, not exaggerating, but when you are writing a script, the way I do, I write a script about a family in Costa Rica, and there are relationships between the characters. There is a character that comes from Nicaragua, and there is there is a cleaning lady that's also kind of the woman that took care of the children in the house. Like when I write the script, I always think, are Europeans going to understand this relationship? Like, because the cleaning lady has no uniform, and she's also kind of a maternal figure. No, this must be universal, but I'm never sure, you know. And do I have to explain Nicaragua is a dictatorship? Do Europeans know this? I'm not sure. And we have a lot of immigrants from Nicaragua that are economic immigrants. But do I have to explain? It's all these questions that emerge when you are writing a film, and suddenly your scene has dialogue, unnecessary dialogue for me or for a Costa Rican spectator or Latin American spectator that I'm putting there, so the French guy that's reading in the committee understands. But it makes the scene heavy, and in the end you forget, and in the end, boom, it's in the film somehow, you know. And also what happens to me is that I write a film, very personal film, that talks about love, that talks about relationship to a sister, that talks about going back to the place you come from. And then someone at the committee reads the script and says, it's very nice, I've had this a lot, very nice, easy to read, but what for, you know? And since I'm half French, I always think, would you ask this to Romer? I mean, he makes films about people at the beach. Would you ask him, what for? You know, you wouldn't. So that's why I think it's that you think your scripts in order to be sure that the people that will read them will think, ah, this is for. It's a film that explains the sociological relationships between economic classes in Central America. There is bourgeois people, middle class, the society is struggling with drugs. I feel comfortable because I learned something, because I cannot take this as a filmic object on its own, an artistic object. No, I have to understand something, so I'm happy, and I'll go home feeling that it was useful to pay, I don't know how much, to see this film.
Yes, and I think that that's something that happens with Latin American cinema. Like, there's this, like, expectative of, like, us portraying just social realism, which gets us caged inside of the things that happens and porno misery, and I think that's terrible, because it's like something that que se espera de nosotros por una cuestión imperialista, algo que se espera de nosotros porque
it's expected from us because of an
desde una bajada
imperialistic
imperialista.
Because of an imperialistic expectative.
Yes, y nosotros, o sea, Glauber Rocha, that is a Brazilian filmmaker from the 70s, said that in order to being revolutionary as Latin American filmmakers, we should not talk about social realities, but we should talk about fantasy and talk about things that we feel, that things that we see, like images and sounds, like in an irrational way, because the violence that we live in as Latin Americans is irrational. So trying to make our films rational and fit into a social realism thing, it's something that it's far away from the way that we transit these experiences. So I think that it's very important, and I think the industry nowadays especially hopes for like a utilitarianism, because it's something like the platforms wait for an etiquette to know and to be safe and to be like sure of something, and questions are much more important than answers, because we are no one to answer, we are someone to make questions. So that's pretty important too.
Oh, very strong. I love this take of cinema as a place of creating utopia of imagination, that is through cinema or art we made possible to imagine possible futures, and without this radical imagination, how can we have a vision for a future which is fair and fair for everybody, and yeah, all this these aspects. Thank you so much for that. I wonder if we have time for one more question. Okay. Does anybody has a...
My question relates to what you said, Ana Cristina, but maybe it's also interesting for all of you. So my question relates on this fact that you decided to do a film about like this feeling, and just because I never like did a film over 7 years, it's like a long time in my head. I mean, I know that films take long, but like I was wondering if you work out of like an emotional moment maybe. Did you lost this feeling over the time? that you did the film, or it's also like really interesting what you said, so about like having like questions, and I thought then, maybe films are your answers in the way that you answer your questions. Now I forgot my point, but just like I wanted to know more about this like emotional state, and how is it maybe also when the project is finished, the film is out now, you can't change anything about it. Where's the emotion now? Yeah.
Okay, yes, that for me is very important that this first emotion, I mean, because obviously if I write something 7 years ago, I am changing. So even if I keep the emotion, the film is changing every time as I grow, because I don't want to shoot something that does not represent me in the present. So it's kind of I grow, so the idea grows, and then we grow together, let's say. But the very first feeling of anxiety, of strangeness, of wounds still remains. But for example, the script I wrote 7 years ago didn't have this, the second character of the film, the boy in the foster home. It was only her. So this came like 4 years after, okay. And sometimes it's difficult for the production because you completely change the script, but you say, okay, I don't want to shoot something that doesn't represent what I'm interested in. But the main feeling, I think it remains, but it is like maybe bigger or different, remains. And it was because I had a girlfriend that is poet, ex-girlfriend, and she writes poetry. And it was very interesting for me because I say, okay, it's amazing that you have an idea and a feeling and you write and you publish. Like I have a feeling and I have to wait like 5 years or 4, so maybe I can write, like because it's so difficult to have an idea and wait for having $1 million to make it. So I think I have to do other kind of art as well to don't feel like frustrating or accumulating feelings. Okay, thank you for your question.
Yes. I think the same as you. I think that you just feel it and then you go to another feeling and then start another project and feel lots of things and understand that the movie as a whole, it's like a question itself, and you see her and you see her from different perspectives, and every time you see her, you discover something new, and you discover another question, and you discover another answer, and you wonder with her, because I don't know, it's like having a child, I think. Like you don't just wait anything from it. It's like, okay, I love you now. Go, run, be free, talk to other people make questions, and I think that's the nice part of publishing and showing a movie. It's like the moment where you stop doing that question and you just throw it in the world and say, hey, do you have this question I have? Can we wonder all together? And people see it and experience it, and then feel like you can trespass the things that you are feeling to someone else, and then you make like a bridge to people you don't even know and that you might never know even. But I think that's the grace of making a work of art, that's showing it to the world and trying to look for people that they like it or they don't like it, or they feel something or they don't feel the thing that you hope for, but it's there and it's generating things in people. So I think that's beautiful about art. Catharsis.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here today, and from coming to come here from so far away, and to this heat here. And so thank you so much, Ana, Cecilia, Valentina, and Sol. And thank you so much for you too to be here with us today. Please don't forget to check the film festival screening schedule, because today we have the first screenings of Cecilia's, Valentina's, and Sol's film, and Anna's film is tomorrow. We have like around 2 to 3 screenings per film, so you have chance. So please try to watch them in the cinema, and let's continue this conversation in the cinema with the filmmakers, and please enjoy the festival, and thank you so much. Florian.
One point I wanted to add, my name is Florian Borchmeier, I'm part of the program team here at FilmFest München, and as Letícia mentioned in the beginning, this event is co-hosted by the Latin America department of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. This has been a very important partner for us in the last 3 years, because the fact that these filmmakers are here present personally, and not only their film, is due to the generous support of this foundation. And this is, I think, important to say, because for Latin American cultural projects at the moment, it's not easy to get funding, and that was a very, very important part, and we really, really deeply thank the foundation for this support. Thank you.